And how has Tantra transformed your life individually and also as a couple?
Well, individually, I say that Tantra practically gave me another life. Not another life in the understanding that is fundamentally different. It's the same but fulfilled. I hardly can imagine what would look like my life without all this which I've practiced and thus developed. And it's in fact not Tantra as a replacement of life, because sometimes people understand this as you practice something and then you replace what you live in your daily life. What I have experienced in Tantra is that I got from there a lot of extraordinary, powerful methods which allowed me to develop my inner potentials. So things which, for instance, when I was a teenager, I intuitively knew that human beings are able to. Then I was constantly told, no, you're dreaming. This is only for very few. This is exceptional. You'll never be like that. And it seems like I was like the average, and practically the destiny was laid before me quite grey. And suddenly by unleashing these potentials inside, now I have to admit that many of the things I was, for instance, dreaming as a teenager I will do in life, I am able to do. Things which were at that time really appearing as exceptional and appearing as you will never do that. Now I'm doing it, and it's quite part of my daily life. So this is what I would say Tantra did for me. Also, for us is exactly the same, because, for instance, you are dreaming when you are young, when you are a teenager, you first fall in love and you say, oh, I wish that to exist forever. But it doesn't exist forever. And then we know that we go from a couple to another one and another one. But for us, Tantra practically fulfilled many of the dreams we did have, kind of ideal goals. It gave us the resources to reach the goals, such as, for instance, we have a relationship which is operational, not this, because many relationships after a time being, which is long, they become somehow formal, or they become like a picture of the relationship. Our relationship is operational. We are operationally loving each other on a daily basis, so to speak. And this relationship is extremely alive, and that is a result of practicing Tantra. If we wouldn't practice Tantra, I'm sure, knowing me, knowing her, we would not be together now, not even close to to be together, because we were not born exceptional. As I used to say to my friends, which are listening to all these amazing things, and they usually have the tendency to say, maybe you were exceptional. I say, no, with this amount of practice, any idiot will be like this. It's not, at least for me, she was more special than me, I would say. But for me, I'm exactly Mr. Average in everything. So it's not, it's just that the average can be raised with practice. That's all. If you do it correctly, and this is what Tantra gives. It gives a set of methods, extremely efficient, so that you can develop everything you want in yourself. And it's, of course, harmonious, because if it's not harmonious, you will get a feedback. So this is what I personally experienced as individual, and also in the couple relationship. Practically all the dreams to come true. Eternal love, or eternally renewed love, exceptional sensuality, fulfillment on all the levels, not only erotically, but also in spiritual, mental, psychic level. So, yeah, that's, I would say, the gift we got from practicing these tantric methods.
What is the goal in Tantra?
It it doesn't exist, in my opinion, a goal in Tantra, and if you don't want to quote the scriptures, you may ask each and everyone how much does he or she want to achieve through Tantra. And you can, through practice, go from a banal life to an extraordinary life, from a mediocre state of health to an exceptional state of health, to a mediocre happiness to an exceptional happiness, and through a complete ignorance, through knowing yourself more and more and discovering amazing things. But it doesn't exist a recipe, universal, valid. Each individual is unique, and it has, I believe, in his destiny, a path in front, which is shown, but nobody can walk on it instead of the person whom that path belongs to. Therefore, the goal in Tantra is the one each and everyone aspires to.
This is, of course, if you look upon Tantra as a tool, because it has two sides here. Adina is referring to the Tantra as a tool, and as a tool it doesn't have a goal, exactly as if you have a hammer, it doesn't have a goal. It's a tool. It has a goal according to the use you give. So the tantric methods, as we mentioned here, they don't have a... It depends how much you use of them. But as a path, it leads somewhere. And it maybe you refer with a question to where the path leads. And then Tantra as a path leads to the human being fully awakened from a spiritual perspective. With other words, to fulfill its human destiny. And now, don't ask me what is to fulfill the human destiny, because we will end up in tomorrow morning.
But what is the difference between the tantric path and other spiritual paths?
Well, difference is very difficult to compare the tantric path with anything else, because the path of Tantra, being having this structure based on method, is not defined by a doctrine. It's defined by a set of methods which are according to reality. So for this reason, you see, that's why we call it the science of life, because it's not really like a set of beliefs. It's the science of your own life. Through Tantra, you discover yourself the way you divinely exist. So, in this way, you can find elements of Tantra in practically any scientific system, for instance. I, as a scientist, found Tantric principles in practically every domain of science which exists today. I used to joke, there was a saying in the beginning of the 19th century, they used to say like this: the degree of evolution of a science is the degree they introduce mathematics into it. I would say the degree of evolution of modern science is the degree they introduce Tantra in it. So the more consciousness evolves, the more it goes towards Tantra. And according to studies, actually the Tantric system is emerging periodically in human consciousness in different ages of humanity. So we can find it back to the origin of religions. It was a Tantric way of thinking. People were looking upon reality as it is, not filtered through doctrines. Doctrines were invented when we were tired thinking and experiencing. As you know, this saying, when you are tired thinking, you draw a conclusion. Extrapolating that, you can say when you are tired evolving, you put a doctrine there to set up the things. So before that is the Tantric thinking. When Michelangelo was asked, how did you do David, this famous sculpture, he said, well, I took a block of marble and I removed the excess. Exactly the same thing the Tantric masters were saying when we're asked, what is Tantra? They say, when you have eliminated everything which is not necessary, what is left is Tantra. So that's why you can't make a difference between this, what I just explained, and other systems which are based on a construction. You see, in Tantra, for instance, Tantra never say, do this instead of that. Tantra is just explaining, if you do this, this will happen. If you do that, that will happen. If you do this, this will happen. Now you choose. So it's not a path as it explains, these are the things you should do, these are the things you should not do, and assign your life to a certain modality. It's just giving you gradually the freedom to exist exactly as you are. So that's why it's difficult to compare, to say this one is superior. It's not even superior. It's the way things are. And actually, if you look, I would say, at meta principles, the whole humanity goes today towards a tantric way of thinking. Because now, for instance, science doesn't accept anymore axiomatic thinking. They want to see reality. There are a lot of scientists which are, for instance, starting to admit the existence of God because it's obvious. You know, God was erased from science because of a dogmatic, axiomatic way of thinking. And now even that is removed from science. And religion is the same. Religions are falling. Those who became rigid, they are just falling apart. People are not, even in India, in places where used to be very religious, people are not going anymore in temples as they used to go, and they are searching for something which is direct. Well, that's Tantra, at the basis. I'm not talking about this neo view of Tantra, which is today exported from India and is not Tantra. I'm talking about the profound principles of Tantric view.